What's going on, everyone? So as I said, I'm going to be using the community a lot more on YouTube on my page for asking you for what types of videos you like to see from me. I put one up today of what sort of top 10 lists videos would you like to see me do. I've got a couple in mind that I'm going to do anyway. So the first one that I'm going to do that will follow this is my top 10 wrestlers of all time, and I'm also going to be doing my top 10 comedians as well. So I've done my list for the wrestlers, I've started my list for the comedians, I've just got to film it all now. So I hope you enjoy the video, guys. My top 10 wrestlers all time. So coming in at number 10 is Kane. Only actually held the WWE Championship for 24 hours, and he's one of them ones that he definitely should have had a longer run as the main champ. Obviously, he's probably in the Undertaker's shadow for a lot of his career, with that the storyline of being brothers and all that. But the one thing that strikes me about Kane was the sheer size of him, just an absolute beast. Hence the big red machine. I feel that they could have done a lot more with him in his career, but nonetheless, he makes the list. Sheer size of him, though, what an athlete. Kane, number 10. Number 9, we've got Sting, also known as Stinger. Most of his career was spent in WCW. Held the WCW Championship 6 times, and multiple other belts as well in the organisation. Come to WWE very late, but at least it happened. Fans were asking and waiting for that for years. And it's a shame that he didn't have more of a career in WWE as well. But one of my favourites to watch recently, come across him just on the network watching WCW, because back in the day I never watched it really. So he's one of my favourites to watch, and it's a shame that, as I said, he didn't have more time with. He would have suited that Attitude Era just on his style of wrestling and the excitement that he brought. So Sting, number 9. Coming in at number 8, probably the most controversial on the list in terms of backstage drama and the whole Montreal screwjob situation, is Shawn Michaels. What an athlete, though. What an entertainer. The agility, the showmanship, the confidence, the arrogance. He had a lot to his bow, and he displayed it. Whether you like him or hate him, you've got to agree that he was one of the most talented ever to grace the ring. And I had to include him on this list. I didn't have him on originally because there was others I wanted to fit in, but I was like, I have to have him on. Like the honours he's got, the belts he won, and the showmanship, as I said, the showstopper, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Plus you got all the DX. Just a lot of history that this guy has on him, and one of the greats. One of the greats. So Shawn Michaels, number 8. Number 7, one of my favourites as a child, like probably top 3 for me as a child, but over the years your things change and you reorder them. But Jeff Hardy, what an athlete! The braveness he had in him. I remember the table, ladders, and chairs matches that they had against the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian, and Jeff was always by far my favourite out of them lot. I used to love them matches, and Jeff, he's one of them guys that has put his body and his life on the line for the business ever since he's been in it. Yes, he's had his problems like a lot of people have, but I think in terms of working for someone and the loyalty he had and just giving everything you've got, like talk about giving 100%. This guy gave 500% every night he wrestled. Um, One of my favourites as a kid, as I said, I love the Swanton Bomb that he used to do for his finishing move. And the tables, ladders, and chairs matches are some of the most memorable I ever have from my childhood. So, Jeff Hardy, respect to you, guy, and thank you for the memories. Number 7, a tragic ending to a career that we all wish wouldn't have happened. I can understand the hate and backlash that he gets, and people don't speak about him anymore. But Chris Benoit, for me, in terms of just wrestling, a talent, a very good talent. The aggressiveness, the athletic ability, the technique he had, the energy, the intensity. Just a very, very good wrestler. Not excusing anything that he did outside of the ring. Rest in peace to his family. But I don't think the business looked after him either. So that's on the WWE as well as himself, because I feel like he possibly wasn't aware of what he was doing when it was happening, when all that happened. So, but in terms of just wrestling alone and what he offered to the business, just an exceptional talent. I think Eddie Guerrero's death definitely affected him. There's footage of that, and you can see. And I think that was one of the final nails in the coffin for him. But in terms of just in-ring ability and talent, I had to put him on the list, guys. One of my favourite wrestlers, just as a pure wrestler. So Chris Benoit, number 6. Coming in at number 5, Kurt Angle. One of the cheesiest to watch in terms of on the mic and promos and storylines, but in the ring, one of the best. I love the Kurt Angle slam, or the angle slam that he did, the ankle lock as well. Some of my favourite finishing moves ever. An Olympic gold medalist. And I thought he brought something to the business at the time that was different. Obviously, he had that wrestling background. And one of my favourites to watch, as I said, I couldn't stand him as a kid, but watching back now as an adult, I appreciate his ability even more. One of the best wrestlers in terms of sheer wrestling ability ever. So Kurt Angle, number 5. Coming in at number 4, Triple H, 14-time world champion. Just a servant to the business. It seemed when I was growing up that he was always in the forefront of action. Like, he was always in the main events of things. He was the guy. Or if he wasn't number 1, he was number 2. And then it would reverse and he would go to number 1. And whoever else he was up against was number 2. Just a servant to the business. CEO of Next program that they run now. And I believe he's part of other things to do with the company too. I think like talent relations and things like that. What a servant to the business. Great athlete, gives his whole life to the business, even to this day, and give us some very memorable WrestleMania moments. I mean, the one that comes to mind is the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker match. But just as a kid, another one that I couldn't stand, and he was one of the ones I hated the most, to be honest, because I had other wrestlers that I preferred to him. But again, as an adult, you appreciate it more for what these people did, and he's one of them that a lot of people would have him as their number 1, and I wouldn't blame them for that. But for me, makes number 4 on the list. But just a phenomenal guy, and I think not a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say about him, which speaks volumes. So. Triple H, one of the best world champions to ever grace the business. Number 4, The Undertaker. What can I say about this guy? I mean, I've spoke about servants a lot in this in terms of people that give everything for the business. And I said Triple H, and like there's not many that would replace him in terms of what he's give to the business, but The Undertaker is number 1. So, like, there's no arguments about it. Been in the business, it seems, for forever. I believe he made his debut in 1990 for the WWF, and recently retired. But also go check out his documentary. It's on the network, The Last Ride. As a kid, scary. The white eyes and everything, the whole gimmick he had. Paul Bearer, rest in peace. Just what a guy. Like, Vince McMahon must be eternally grateful for what the Undertaker has done for his company. And I was just reading some of the stats on him, and he was the 7-time world heavyweight champion and a WWF champion 4 times, and as I said, 7-time world heavyweight champion, which for me doesn't seem anywhere near what he should have had in terms of titles. Like, he should have had a lot more. But just in terms of, I mean, let's talk about WrestleManias. It makes WrestleManias every year. It just had his last one, or so they say, but you never know with him. But just years and years of entertainment, and I can't say enough about him. The most respected guy in the business from most people. He has this aura about him, not just in terms of his gimmick, but as a person. The hard work he's put in, deservedly, he's in retirement now. Enjoy it, because I don't think anyone will ever do what he did. And, do you know what I mean? Several operations. I mean, all wrestlers must go through operations, but he's really the definition of putting your body on the line and sacrifice, and just years and years and years and years of entertainment for people, and scaring kids, but then these kids grew up and he's still there, he's still putting the work in, and they still got them butterflies in their stomach when that bell makes that sound to start his music off, and he comes out, and the smoke and the darkness, and just unbelievable. I wouldn't be mad if he was most people's number one either. This was hard to order, these guys. I've got several honourable mentions I'm going to do at the end of the video as well. This was hard to put this list together and order them, because there's people I had to miss out that should be on the list too, and I wouldn't be mad if Undertaker is a lot of your number one, because I understand it, I get it. But for me, number 3 for the Undertaker, but the Phenom. Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin. As a kid, I didn't appreciate him enough because of the guy I'm going to speak about next. But watching recently and just revisiting over the years, this guy, when it comes to the Attitude Era, the business has got him to thank more than anyone for that. He changed the business, the culture of wrestling for the better at that point in time. The storyline with him and Vince, just great. It added comedy. Do you know what I mean? Anxiety, all sorts of different emotions, kept you entertained. And then the ratings were through the roof at times. Obviously, iconic WrestleMania moments, especially with The Rock. Just a great entertainer. Maybe not the most in terms of wrestling ability, but as a brawler and just his attitude and the not giving a F about anything. And when that glass breaks and he comes in with the music, like, in terms of pops from the crowd, arguably number 1 ever. And that's saying something over people like Undertaker, Rock, Hogan, Triple H. Like, he's probably number 1 for that. And as I said, he one of the pillars of wrestling and changed the business at that time. And I don't think anyone will ever come close to that again for what he did and how the crowds used to be on the edge of their seat when he was involved. And as a kid, I didn't appreciate it enough, but watching it back now, I totally get it, and that's why he's number 2 on my list. If I'd have done this when I was younger, I don't know where he would have been, but I get it, and I get why he also would be number 1 for most people. Stone Cold Steve Austin, awesomeness. Like, I miss him. I do miss him a lot. I miss a lot of these wrestlers and the Attitude Era, and it's not what it was nowadays. I don't really watch it nowadays at all. It's just, we all know that it's a shambles. So he's one of the ones I miss, though, more than ever. So Stone Cold Steve Austin, number 2. Number 1, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, The Rock. This guy as a kid was like a superhero to me. I was obsessed with him. Just his comedic value on the mic, that just bring it, the energy, the over enthusiasms at times, the athletic ability, the way he controlled the crowd. Like, I get that feeling of like shivers and on the back of my and hair standing up on the back of my neck. Even though I never saw him in person, just watching it through a TV, I got that sense of electrifying in the room. Do you know what I mean? Just unbelievable, and I don't think he's another one that I don't think anyone will be able to replicate. Gone on to have a fantastic career outside the ring, but he was easily streets ahead of everyone for me as a kid. More so as a face, not as a heel, but even watching recently him as a heel, like, he was great at that as well. But as a face for me, in the Just Bring It era, and I don't think anyone come close to that, to be honest. Stone Cold may do nowadays more for like watching it as an adult, watching it back, but I mean, this guy was unbelievable. The best on the mic for me, but there's a few in there. Like, I think Stone Cold was good at that. Ric Flair, who is going to be in my honourable mentions, was great on the mic, but just I was just so captivated by him when I used to watch him as a kid. I wanted to be him. Did the people's eyebrow and did the whole "if you smell what the Rock is cooking," and just he's got that family history in the business as well, which I don't think a lot of people realise either. So, but there's not a lot more I can say about the guy. Just number 1 easily for me as a kid. I wanted to be him. He was the guy that I'd skip other matches just to get to his parts. Do you know what I mean? Like I was only interested in watching him more than anyone else, really. So I mean, of course, I would watch other matches and that, but it was always him. Like if he wasn't involved in that, I would just be like, this isn't the same. And when he went away from the business, it was like a death. It was like mourning someone, and I think a lot of people would relate to that because it's not many people that have done what he's done in the business either. But on the mic and that, just unbelievable. Just the comedic value. He was good as a heel as well as a face. Usually with wrestlers with that as well, that they're either better at one or the other. But with him, you can take your pick because he's great at both of it. So, The Rock, #1 all-time wrestler for me. I'm just going to give my honourable mentions. I mean, there's a few on here that I wanted to be in the list, but because of my list, I had to bench them. So Hulk Hogan, obvious choice. What he done for the business early on in the 80s and everything. Just another one that started the ball rolling really in terms of mainstream wrestling. So I wanted to put him on the list, but I don't. Do you know what I mean? I don't hate him. I do like watching him, but in terms of just wrestling ability and stuff, I don't think he comes close to a lot of these guys, and that's not taking anything away from him in what he done early on. That's how I feel. Andre the Giant, I mean, another guy, just a freak of nature, a freak of body size, and I say that in the utmost respect. A lot of people, another one that no one really has any bad words to say about, sorely missed, and they have a trophy to this day for him, for other wrestlers to compete for. So, I mean, what a guy, Andre the Giant. Randy Orton, another fantastic athlete. He had that. He would have suited the Attitude Era immensely. It's a little bit gutting that he didn't catch it and he come after the Attitude Era, because the whole gimmick and that he has now, the Viper and all that, like he would have suited the Attitude Era down to a T. So Randy Orton, Edge, another one like that would have. I was about to say suited the Attitude Era. He was involved in it. Obviously Edge and Christian, and then he went on to singles, and I think he was very underrated for what he did with the business. Bret the Hitman Hart got screwed over, as we all know. Don't think he gets the credit he should have. And I think that's because he wasn't an outlandish character. He wasn't loud, but in terms of a technician in the ring and sheer wrestling ability and IQ and intelligence, top 3 easily. Bret the Hitman Hart. Rey Mysterio, I wanted to put him on the list. He was exciting, one of the most exciting ones I watched as a kid coming up. And I wanted to put him on the list, but some other guys had to be on this list, so I had to bench him. But Rey Mysterio, just crazy excitement when you watch him, the speed of him and athletic ability. Kurt Hennig, rest in peace, Mr. Perfect. Just didn't have a lot of flaws in his game at all. Had the character, he was good on the mic, people bought into it, and another one that is sorely missed, Kurt Hennig. Chris Jericho was close to making this list as well for me, but had to miss out. Different character again, a bit like Macho on the mic. I used to do the Walls of Jericho on my dad as a kid. But yeah, just offered something different. Obviously he's doing very well in AWE now. Another one that I do miss. He wasn't my favourite. He's never been one of my favourites, to be honest, but I always liked watching him regardless. Different character, and he was good in the ring as well. So X-Pac, another one that was close to making this list. I actually had him in the list originally and had to take him out for someone. So that whole DX side of it, I mean, just excitement, and he was exciting to watch, and technique and speed. X-Pac. And last but certainly not least, Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, whatever you want to call him. Talk about someone putting their body on the line for their career. Like that Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker, probably the most famous match ever in terms of like shock value and something you've never seen before, and the amount of injuries this guy's had, and he's done it in Japan and everywhere. Like he's been set on fire, he's been like bombs put on him, like little bombs and stuff, and like his tooth was through his flipping gum and I think his nose and stuff. Like just a true driven person. Dreamed of it as a kid. He was doing backyard wrestling to begin with, did everything he needed to. He went to Japan first to then get his chance in the WWF at the time. He applied for the WWF for years and they kept turning him down and didn't even reply to him and stuff as well. went to Japan, did well over in Japan, and then transferred over to the WWF and made a career for himself. So in terms of going against the odds and doing stuff that many people thought he couldn't, what a legend. In terms of hardcore matches and stuff as well, him and Terry Funk, and just not many people come close to him. He was never one of my favourites, just I think it was more because of the characters and the image he played. But in terms of just putting his body on the line and that, like, and being a tough guy, he's top three, like, and that's not even a joke. Probably number one, like, in terms of toughness. To be able to come back from going off a Hell in a Cell, like, I don't even know how tall it was, but it was high as hell, crashing into a table, like, you can say wrestling's fake or whatever, but the injuries aren't fake, and some things like that, a lot of people wouldn't bounce back from that, and he went on to have a career after that, and multiple injuries and stuff that a lot of people would have caved in from. So Mick Foley, last but not least on this honourable mentions. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. This took a long time to make this video, even though it's probably not going to be that long in terms of when you watch it, but it took a lot of effort and stuff, so I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Just a transition for me in terms of difficulty making a video, but I'll be back soon with another top 10.